All right, so we did a deep dive into the script, and now it's time to talk about the other tools in your toolbox. We spoke about how you can't be a successful carpenter without knowing how to use the proper saw or the proper hammer, how you can't be a mechanic without knowing which wrench to use, or a hairstylist without knowing how to use a pair of clippers or a pair of scissors. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can't be a successful salesperson without having the right mindset, using the right psychology, or know what rebuttals to use in what situations and how to deliver them. Now, we compared telemarketing to acting, and the script is very much telling a very long joke. Well, that's all true, but it's deeper than that. There are different layers and nuances. I mentioned acting before. Any successful actor will tell you to do it right, you have to throw yourself into that role. You must become the person, become one with the role that you're playing. You have to create that mindset. Now, when you think about movies about salesmen, what are some of the ones you think about off the top of your head? Wolf of Wall Street, Boiler Room, Glengarry, Glen Ross. Those are some that come to my mind. What do all the main characters in those movies have in common? They have that killer instinct, that have the take no prisoners attitude, that you have nothing to lose. They have the mindset that they are not afraid of losing the deal. They do not let the customer sell them. They sell the customer. Well, to do that, as we stated in the opening training, you have to deliver your lines properly, following the script and delivering it in an exciting way where you sound confident and remain in control of the conversation. We spoke about altering your voice patterns and raising the volume, lowering and raising the tone of your voice, speeding up, slowing down, pausing for effect. But there are more layers to it. You have to learn how to use all the tools in your toolbox. We spoke about pausing for effect, making your words stand out and mean something more than what they would normally mean. Another tool is dead silence, creating awkwardness, forcing them to answer your questions. Do not say another word until they answer you. If they don't answer, they're showing you that they have no interest and no cooperation, letting you know to move on to the next call. Again, you cannot be afraid to lose the deal that you never had in the first place. Do not be afraid of standing them up. I'll say that again. Do not be afraid of standing them up. People are going to test you to see if you know what you're talking about, to see if you're worthy to spend time with. The worst thing that they're going to do is say no. So you can't be afraid of no. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. They're not going to come through the phone and kick you in the teeth. They're not going to come through the phone and punch you in the mouth. Beautiful thing about telemarketing is you're never going to speak to these people ever, ever, ever again in your life. So don't be afraid of the word no, or be afraid of standing them up. Again, many times the customers are testing you to see if you're worthy, that you know what you're talking about, or worth listening to. Other times, they just think they have all the answers and that they know better. Either way, we're not selling them a product or a service. We're selling them an idea. In order to do that, we have to educate them. So part of your job is just that, educating. We are explaining what it is we're doing, the benefits, and why we're asking and expecting the answers to the questions that we're asking. In section 1, we spoke about ignoring their questions until you know they are worth the time to spend with them and speak to. You can't possibly know that unless you know they pre-qualify, meaning that they meet all 3 pre-qualifications. They are indeed the homeowner, not a renter. They do live in a single family residence, not a townhouse, condo, mobile home, manufactured home, etc. And that their utility bill is worth $100 or more a month. If they don't meet those qualifications, they're not worth speaking to. Doesn't matter what questions they ask. It doesn't matter. You can't help them. So if they ask you a stupid question like, where are you calling from? How did you get my phone number? It doesn't matter. It means nothing. Ignore it. Because you don't know whether or not they pre-qualify and that they're worth your time to speak to. So make sure you know all 3 answers to those questions and know that they meet the qualifications in order to move on. Again, most of them are just testing you to see how you're going to react, to see if you know what you're talking about, to see if you're worthy of their time to speak to. Now, we showed you how being animated, talking with your hands, comes through over the phone. By talking with your hands, you sound more energetic and more confident, and it carries through over the phone. Again, they can't see you. All they can go by is your voice. Well, if you're talking with your hands, you're subconsciously being more confident and more energetic, and it shows. It carries through over the phone. Now, when you get to section 2 in the script, we're asking you to stand up. Now, we're not doing it because we don't think you have something better to do. We're not doing it just because. We want you to get out of your chair because motion creates motion, which creates energy. And it carries through over the phone. Again, if you're pitching somebody, you're eye level with your computer screen. You imagine that the computer screen is the person you're speaking with. Well, if you're eye level, you're even with them. If you're standing up, you have the advantage because you're looking down. You have the leverage. So you're standing up, you're sounding more confident, you're sounding more energetic. and you have the leverage because you're looking down. It's another tool in your toolbox. And guess what? We need all the advantages we can get. Again, someone is always selling something to somebody. Either you're going to be selling them or they're going to be selling you. Now, to be successful, you want and need to be selling them. So whether or not they're testing us or think they know more than we do, sometimes we have to act the role of lawyers. What I mean by lawyers is just that, just like you see on TV. If they argue black, we argue white. If they argue white, we argue black. If they argue odds, we argue evens. If they argue evens, we argue odds. It doesn't matter what the argument is, you take the opposite role. And you have the counter argument. Now, guess what? You have the advantage because you have the script in front of you. You know what's coming next. You've been on these calls. You know where the issues are going to come up, and you should know how to deal with them ahead of time. It's kind of like taking an open book test. If you and your classmate are taking a test and one of you has an open book test and the other one doesn't, who has the advantage? Obviously, the person taking the open book test, right? Well, this is the same thing. Now, you can't make a proper argument if you don't have the right rebuttals to use. The additional tools in your toolbox, or to put it another way, the advantages. You want to put yourself in a position where if you flip a coin, heads or tails, heads I win, tails you lose. You need to have the mindset where you're always winning, no matter what the argument is. Be prepared with your rebuttals. You have to know them backwards and forwards. You have to know which one to use, when to use it, and how to use it. I can literally give you thousands of them. However, I don't want to overwhelm you. I want you to focus on the ones listed underneath the script or in the labs section. Now, in order to use the rebuttals effectively, you need to know the format. To do that, we created an acronym to follow. It's called LABS. It stands for listen, acknowledge, bridge, and spin. L for listen, A for acknowledge. We're repeating their concern. B for bridge, what you say to get to the rebuttal. S for spin, the rebuttal that you're using. Now you got to listen to the customer. It's really, really, really important. The good Lord above gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. The reason being is that he wanted you to listen twice as much as he wanted you to speak. I'll say that again. He wanted you to listen twice as much as he wanted you to speak. So if a customer says something, listen to it. You can't listen if you're speaking. Acknowledge. It means you're acknowledging the fact that A, you heard the customer, And B, you're letting the customer know that you did hear him or her. To do that, you're repeating their concern or their question. And the bridge, it's what you're saying to bridge the conversation to the rebuttal that you're going to use. The S as in spin is the rebuttal that you're using to win the argument. An example of the format that we want you to follow. I understand your concern about X. You acknowledged it. That's exactly why we're calling the bridge that you're using. And then you're going to pick and choose which rebuttal to use for the actual argument that you're about to win. Pretty simple formula. So the first rebuttal, you should already know from the opening section. That is, if they ask you a question before you know that they're pre-qualified. Let's say they're talking about price. Well, how much is this going to cost? So here's what you're saying. I understand your concern about price, and I'm gladly going to answer it. Just so I don't waste your valuable time, let me ask you 3 quick questions so I know that you qualify. Do you own the property or do you rent it? Notice, I did not wait for an answer. I just went right for it, forcing them to answer my question. Okay, they answered the question. What type of home do you live in? Is it a single family residence, townhouse, condo, mobile home, or manufactured home? Single family. Perfect. And what would you say your average monthly electric bill is if you took a 12-month average, knowing in the summertime it may be higher than the winter? There you go. That's it. That's the format. You should already know this. Now, the next 3 rebuttals, you're going to need to know as you're going to use them the most often. Any questions relating to the solar install process, the cost, the price, the warranty, anything specific, use this rebuttal. And again, it's only after you know that they're pre-qualified. So anything under that category, anything specific. I understand your concern about the price, and I'm glad you brought that up. Honestly, I don't want to give you any wrong information, which is exactly why we want you to meet with our specialist. He or she is going to provide you with the proposal, explain all the options available to you, as well as the pros and cons of each option, and answer any and all questions that you have. That way, you're going to be able to make an intelligent choice as to whether or not solar is right for you and your family. Fair enough? Great. Would you like them to come out tomorrow or the next day? And you pick the day it is. You got to use your head. Okay, you want it on Friday. Great. Morning or afternoon? Morning? Okay, 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Notice you give them only choice A or choice B. You do not leave it open-ended. Now, I addressed their question. I acknowledged it. I bridged it. And then I spun it. And I actually went one step further, which was taking a negative and turning it into a positive. In other words, I gave them the rebuttal, and then I went for the close. Taking a negative and turning it into a positive. That's the power of sales. That's control. Now, you can't do it if you're mousy about it. You can't do it while you're being shy. You could only do it if you're confident, and you have to be standing up to do it. Now, here's another one. Let's say you get past section 2, or you get to section 2, and they say they're not interested. Well, are we going to take no as an answer, or are we going to try to take a negative and turn it into a positive? We're going to try to make the sale, right? Because sales is binary. You don't make the sale, you failed. If you make the sale, you were successful. It's just that simple. There is no in between. Now, many agents at this point will buy into something like, well, call me back. And they'll buy into it because they're not prepared. They think something is going to change between now and the next time they speak to them. I promise you, there is nothing you're going to be able to say on the next call that you're not able to say on this call. So if you get to section 2 or beyond, and they say they're not interested, let me ask you, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Bottom line, you spend a few minutes of your time with our agent and you gain knowledge. That's it. How bad can that be? The technician, he's going to discuss all the options available, explain the pros and cons of each option, and provide you with all of the information you're going to need to make an intelligent choice and decide whether or not solar is right for you or not. Is that fair? Great. Is tomorrow or Friday better for you? Again, I went straight to the close, turning a negative into a positive. We're not really selling a product or a service. We're selling an idea. And what's the worst thing that they're going to say? No. Okay, great. They say no. It's the worst thing that's going to happen. Again, they're not going to come through the phone and punch you in the mouth. Now, if you're speaking to somebody for more than 5 minutes, look, all due respect, Mrs. Jones, I've now spoken to you for 7 minutes. I'm a little bit confused here. What exactly is holding you back? Notice it says, let them answer. It means shut up. Do not say another word. Force them to answer. I'm honestly not trying to sell you solar. I'm trying to introduce you to the idea. I would not expect you to make a decision without having all the information to make an intelligent choice. All we want to do is send someone out to your home, let them look at the roof, your electric bill, and explain all the options available to you so you can choose whether or not solar is right for you or not. Is that fair? Great. Is tomorrow or Friday best for you? That's it. Again, you can't do it if you're not confident. You can't do it if you're not energetic. And you can't do it if you don't know the rebuttals backwards and forwards. You got to know these 3 rebuttals. Simple as that. Got to know how to deliver. Now, some of these rebuttals are going to come up from time to time, and you need to know them. Someone's going to say, yeah, send me an email. I just want to do some more research. What's the name of your company? Something to that effect. In which case you're going to say, with all due respect, what type of research can you possibly do? No one has provided you with a proposal yet. Therefore, You don't have any information to go on, nor can you get that information without having someone come out, look at your roof, your electric bill, and based off of that, our job is to provide you with a proposal so that you're going to have all the information to make an intelligent choice as to whether or not solar is right for you and your family or not. Does that make sense? Great. Is tomorrow or Friday best for you? They say no at that point. Hey, what's holding you back? It's not going to cost you anything to get free information, is it? Someone might say, I already got other solar quotes. Well, that's great. So you're obviously interested. So you know there's many options available, not to mention pricing. It's just like buying a car. You want to see who's giving you the best deal and most bang for your buck. I'm sure that makes sense, right? Someone might say, why do you need to know my income? Well, we're not the IRS, nor are we going to report you to the IRS. We're just looking for a ballpark figure. Some of these programs are based off the taxable income you make. We want to make sure you're going to be eligible for the programs and not waste your valuable time. Does that make sense? Great. What's your combined household taxable income? They insist, look, we're not the IRS. We're not going to report you to the IRS. Ballpark figure, what is your taxable income? Force them to answer. Someone says the spouse is not going to attend the appointment. If it's a guy, he's probably going to say something to the effect of, I wear the pants in the family. I make all the decisions. Great. Yeah, macho. Macho man. All right. So what you're going to say is basically, hey, I understand you're the decision maker and wear the pants in the family. When you purchase the furniture in your house, was your wife there? Sure, she was. This is the same thing. Think of it as furniture for the house or the roof. You may have options on layout, color, design. I'm sure she's going to want her input, right? After all, a happy wife makes for a happy life. Am I right? Great. So will you both be available? We do not want one-legged appointments, meaning we don't want either the husband or the wife. We need them both together. Otherwise, our client's going to have to go out a second time to meet with both of them and waste their valuable time driving across town to get there and then driving across town to get back and then having to drive out there a second time. We don't want that to happen. If they do not want to provide a secondary phone, all due respect, Mr. Jones, if they can't get a hold of you, they cannot confirm the appointment and will not come out to meet with you. Surely there's another phone number, maybe your wife's, or maybe your husband, maybe your wife's. What is that number? Now, if you want to be a smart ass about it, and depending on who I'm talking to, I may use this rebuttal, and I'm sure I'll get away with it. Let me ask you, Mr. Jones, if you and your wife are not in the same room, how do you guys communicate? Do you string two cans together and talk between a string? Do you build a big bonfire and make smoke signals and send them to one another? Do you send carrier pigeons back and forth with messages? I mean, seriously, how do you guys speak? And chances are they're going to laugh. In which case you're going to say, what's another number that they can call you on? What's your wife's number? If they sound elderly And we all know what an elderly person sounds like. First of all, if they sound like they have one foot in the grave, we don't want to be speaking to them. They sound like they are our great-great-grandmother or great-great-grandfather, or sound like they're about to fart dust. We don't want to speak to them because they're not our customer. But if they sound elderly, but not over elderly or over the age, please don't mind me asking, are you over the age of 70? Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, great. The reason I'm asking is because we don't want to take advantage of the elderly. Okay, they say yes. Do you make your own financial decisions, or do you have someone who helps make those with you, or someone who has power of attorney? If the answer is yes, they must be with them on the appointment. There are laws against that. We cannot take advantage of the elderly. Emails. Everyone in the world has at least one email. I don't care who you are, where you are, everybody has an email. You must be able to get the email. Look, we want to send an email to remind you of the appointment. What's your email? Explaining what it is we're doing, why it is we're doing it, and why we need the answer. We're not going to sell your information. No one is going to get your email from us. So those are the basic rebuttals that you're going to be using. Those are the tools in your toolbox. You gotta know. Plain simple. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is do not browbeat them or bully them into appointments. Make them see the merits of the deal and what is being offered and how it benefits them. They have nothing to lose but a bit of time. They only have something to gain, which is knowledge. You have to use that to your advantage. It's really simple. They have nothing to lose but time. And if you know that and you have that in your mind and have that as your mindset, you're going to go a long way. Because it's not like you're selling vacuum cleaners. You're not selling them a second car that they don't really need. You're selling them idea. That's it. You're selling them knowledge. But it's not costing them anything but their time. So they have everything to gain and nothing to lose. You need to know how to use that to your advantage. All right, so I want you guys to take a break. And when you guys come back, I want you to familiarize yourselves with these rebuttals. Learn them and practice them by yourselves. I then want you to pair off with a partner, and I want one agent to act as the customer and the other agent to act as the agent. I want the agent who is acting as the customer to give a hard a time as possible to the agent. I then want you guys to switch roles and repeat it 3 times. When complete, I want you guys to log in and start making calls. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Hopefully this helps you guys out a lot.